Hi, everybody. Carol here, and I have more insights to share from Spirit. I want to talk about something that came up in a session recently. It was very interesting for me. I'd never had it happen before. It was actually very sad as well, but it was very enlightening. So let's talk a little bit about what came up. Now, one of the things that we know, or I know from experiencing in my mediumship, is that when we pass from this physical reality and we move into the other side, we are still processing our life. We gain a lot of clarity, right? Because we're all of a sudden outside of the situation. We can step back, we can look down, and we can see our life. And we recognize things that we could have done better. We talk about our regrets and the things that we realized we were responsible for. So we understand that as we move into the spiritual dimension, we gain this sense of clarity. But what was really interesting in this particular session is that the woman who came through in spirit still had a daughter that was living. And when this woman, this mother, passed and moved to spirit, and she was communicating with the sitter, because obviously we were doing our validation and making sure that we had the accurate person, the spirit was talking about how hurt she was because as she had moved into the spiritual realm, she now saw from this different perspective. And the perspective that she saw in regards to her daughter actually was rather painful for her. And I had never had this happen before, but she realized that her daughter wasn't quite the person that she thought she was whenever she was here in the physical realm. And that realization about some of her daughter's intentions and ways of being was incredibly painful for her. And as a result of that, she was willing to talk about one child, but she was not ready and willing to speak about this child. The only thing that she was willing to talk about was how hurt she was because of the things that she was now seeing from her new perspective. So I had never had this happen in a session before where the spirit was so pained by the awareness that they were having of their interaction with another person. And I think in all reality, if we look at that, we can kind of say this makes a lot of logical sense. We may understand why that person is doing the things that they're doing now that we're in the spiritual realm, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't still hurt us, that we don't still feel pain. I think this is important for us to realize that when we move into the spiritual dimension, we are still living, breathing beings. We still have feelings and emotions. We are still impacted by our loved ones here in the physical world, and that we can still be wounded by that. And this came up in another session while I'll be sharing some other insights from as well, and I'll put a link to that down in the description here so that you can view that as well. But when we pass, we have these experiences that unfortunately can be painful, not only about the things that we did in our lives, but perhaps with the other people that were around us as well, and that we still need to process, and we need to deal with the emotions and our awareness of these relationships with others, not just from our perspective, but from their perspective. So I thought this was incredibly insightful. It's something that you can ponder and think about as well. You may have a challenging relationship with someone, or you may love someone very, very dearly. And when you get to the other side, you may see aspects of them that unfortunately will cause you pain. And this is where we're all accountable, right? We're all accountable for our interactions with others. And unfortunately, sometimes people have less than altruistic intentions towards us, and we may have to experience that when we pass on, and we may have to process some of that pain, and that can be difficult. We can apply that to ourselves, I think, as well. How are our intentions towards others? Are we being as altruistic as we possibly can? Have we made peace with the reasons that we've made decisions, perhaps to treat a certain person a certain way? We may feel justified, and that may be totally okay. But hopefully we're doing that from a place of honesty and integrity and feeling that we're needing to protect ourselves, as opposed to a place of viciousness and cruelty and negative intention. That can be very damaging for not only the other individual, but for ourselves as well. So anyway, this was quick, it was brief, but I thought it was important to share because it gives us all something to think about what we're going to experience when we leave this physical world. It's going to sometimes be challenging, and we're still going to be learning and growing when we are on the other side. So thanks for allowing me to share. I hope you'll subscribe. Check out my website if you're interested in visiting me for a session. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.